Monkey D. Dragon is one of the most mysterious characters in all of One Piece, and every time we see him on screen, we know something is about to go down. Being Garp's son and Luffy's father, we all have high hopes for Dragon and what he can do. So in today's video, let's talk about him and why he might make his move in the coming chapters. What's up guys, Mr. Gambly here, and in today's video, I want to talk about the most wanted man, Monkey D. Dragon. Why has Oda hidden him all this time, and what will he do once he finally makes his move? Let's talk about it. Before we get into it, if you're enjoying the content, go ahead and subscribe. It's a win-win for both of us. Now, as I said earlier, Dragon is incredibly mysterious, being someone who does stuff so subtle that you may tend to forget it. Like for example, when Luffy was getting pressed by Smoker, but he came in and saved him. Even though this was such a big thing, most of us literally forgot he even did that until Garp made it known that he was Luffy's father. But not only is Garp mysterious to us, but he is to the One Piece world as well. No one knew he was Garp's son, and in fact, I don't even think anyone knew he had a child, let alone being Monkey D. Luffy, the one causing problems throughout the world right now. But as we enter the final saga, I think it's finally time for this man to make a move and go towards what he stands for. Is it crazy to say that I think he's making his move sooner than we think? Well, here's why I think this. As the Egghead Island arc has gone on, we've seen a lot of Dragon content, more than we ever seen before. I mean, we can start off literally the chapter right before the current arc, in chapter 1058. The Revolutionary Army are happy to find out that Sabo is safe. Everyone except for Dragon, whose mind is more on the potential truth of Sabo killing Cobra. He says that if he actually did do that, he'll never forgive Sabo, no matter the reason. I think we all know why he said this, and actually later, we find out from Dragon himself that it's because Cobra isn't like other kings who rule like tyrants. Cobra was an intelligent and fair ruler, and so his assassination is something he can't wrap his head around. So back to the chapter, he asked Kuma what he saw to get the facts straight. Now, you'd think this would just be a loose plot thread, something that we would revisit after the Egghead Island arc, but boy was that wrong. Because Oda has implemented a new style of storytelling, letting us get out of the island the Straw Hats are on and exploring other plot threads. The Revolutionary Army was one of them. In the chapter after the next one, we revisit them for a short amount of time, and the fact that Sabo didn't kill Cobra was confirmed to Dragon, but he makes no crazy reaction. That's another chapter involving Dragon. Then we skip to chapter 1064, where Vegapunk expresses that he feels as if he's close to his death, and we find out that he's telling this to Dragon himself. Keep that in mind. 2 chapters later, we get a flashback to 22 years ago after the Ohara incident. We find out that Vegapunk and Dragon have had history with each other. Dragon, who at the time was the head of the Freedom Fighters, continued to express to Vegapunk that he wasn't happy with his decision to join the world government, who did such a thing to Ohara. But Vegapunk had his reasons. Joining the world government would give him the funding to carry out his plans to change the world. But Dragon is completely opposed to that, telling Vegapunk that he would raise his own army to fight them head on, and so the Revolutionary Army was founded. That was another incorporation of Dragon, but this wasn't even to resolve a plot point. It just seemed to be there for a greater reason, but keep that in mind as well. In chapter 1067 and 1068, we get a short glimpse of the Kuma situation after the last time we saw them. And now Kuma is acting the f*** up. He seems to be running towards somewhere, but he's not saying where or why. And in the next chapter, he just teleports himself to wherever he wanted to go. We later find out that he went to Mary Joie, but Dragon again reacts very calmly. I mean, you would expect Dragon and his gang to make immediate action because Kuma had just escaped, but they just sit there. Obviously, this is the more logical plan of action towards the situation, but this really brings up questions like, is this guy gonna do anything, or is he just gonna sit there like a Kainu watching everything unfold? Now, we skip to the recent chapters and we enter Sabo's return and explanation of what the hell happened at the Reverie. All of the army is still posted up, but now Dragon and Ivankov are hearing Sabo out. Everything is revealed to us, but then we get a sudden cut to one of the Holy Knights, and we haven't seen them since. So far, we've seen that Dragon has had a constant presence within this arc in particular, 2 plot threads, an unrelated backstory, as well as having a mystery plot thread in him speaking to Shaka. But with that comes different ways Dragon can work within this arc, so let's get into them. The first role Dragon can take that I'll go into is him pulling up on Mary Joie to retrieve Kuma. This is the most unlikely thing for Dragon to do, hence why I'll go over it first. The revolutionaries don't really know that Kuma has pulled up over there, but if a newspaper or distress signal can be sent out quick enough, the revolutionaries will know. After all, it has been a day since the Straw Hats have been on Egghead Island, so there is a slight possibility. Then again, Dragon is too chill about this situation to be going all the way to enemy territory to retrieve Kuma. Let's remember that 1. The Revolutionary Army pulled up to Mary Joie on a perfect day with the perfect plan to retrieve Kuma because they had so much prep time, and 2. The fact that Kuma has just left, as well as Sabo, the second in command, just arriving, not ready to go in for another damn infiltration. This might have sounded like a waste of time to go over, but remember, Kuma is still over there. Whether or not his plot thread will be accompanied by Dragon going over there is unclear, but it would be a nice way for Dragon to initialize and confirm his conflict with the world government. Sabo has already declared war, but the leader pulling up and taking Kuma would just solidify it. But now, let's move on to another outcome. That being, Dragon pulling up to Egghead Island. The first thing that really points towards this was the last page of 1064 that we went over already, where Shaka told Dragon that he felt his death incoming. This is something Dragon was concerned about at the moment, saying you shouldn't say that. And furthermore, this is definitely a reason to go to Egghead Island, but he was in a situation. That situation being waiting for Sabo to come back after hearing him seemingly disappear back in chapter 1060. But now it's all resolved. Sabo is back and Dragon has gotten clarity regarding the Reverie situation. So now Dragon has time to pull up on Egghead Island. But the question arises, if Dragon has the time to go all the way to Egghead Island, why doesn't he just pull up to Mary Joie directly to get Kuma? Well, that's because there is more of a reason to go to Egghead Island. On top of the already scary prediction that Shaka had told Dragon about regarding his potential death, Dragon can also go over there in order to understand the Kuma situation better. I hope you guys remember that Vegapunk has an entire room inhabiting Kuma's memories that Bonnie just so happened to encounter recently. This means that he's in access to something that'll clue us in on what the hell Kuma is doing. Having already known that Vegapunk was the one who turned Kuma into a literal robot, Dragon has all the more reason to pull up on Egghead Island now. He can find out why the hell it happened, what Kuma gave up for it, and possibly what his plan is now. If he goes to Egghead, not only can he save Vegapunk, but he can find out Kuma's initial situation, everything he gave up in order to become what he is now, and what Kuma might be planning right now as he just disappeared without words. But with all actions in One Piece, there is always the reasons for these actions, which we just discussed, but now, what will be the consequences of said actions? Well, to start off, I think just like the first possibility, this will be the spark of the conflict between the Revolutionary Army and the world government, as now one of the Gorosei, Jay Garcia, and the leader of the Revolutionary Army have pulled up to Egghead Island. This will be representative of their final conflict, as Dragon and Jay Garcia might face off on this island. Speaking of facing off, however, his arrival really changes the scope of what the fights on Egghead Island might look like. I think Dragon has zero reason to fight with Kizaru, so automatically I have him going off to fight with Jay Garcia. That is, if Jay Garcia is a fighter. I don't doubt he is, however, because we've seen him take an attack from Pablo the Marathon Runner and he has a monster form. So if this is Dragon's fight, what will Luffy do? Now that I think about it, if Luffy goes ahead and fights Kizaru, it doesn't really impact the other Straw Hats. Conveniently, there are 9 other Vice Admirals at Egghead Island right now. Luffy could either fight with Kizaru and solidify his rank as a Yonko, or Luffy can fight alongside his father against Jay Garcia. This could be a nice ass moment as they've never met before, but now Luffy is a Yonko, being one of the most influential people in the entire world at the moment, finally being worthy enough to meet the most wanted man. But all the same probability goes to fighting Kizaru, as Luffy had already expressed his desire to surpass Kuma, Sentomaru, and Kizaru himself. He's obviously surpassed 2 of the 3, Kuma and Sentomaru, but what better way to fulfill his past words by having him beat the 3rd and strongest of the 3. That's cool and all, but Zoro and Sanji fighting a Vice Admiral wouldn't sound cool. I'll be real, it'll be nice for my agenda if that ends up happening, because I am a strong believer that the Marines are way too underrated by the community. And so for some Vice Admirals to hold off Zoro and Sanji, it would be very funny how some people would cope with this. But regardless of how this plays out, whenever Dragon decides to make his move, he'll change One Piece forever. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. What do y'all think will happen? All I know is that Dragon will soon go crazy. Anyways, if you did end up enjoying this, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe. And I'll catch y'all in the next one.